For those who do not know Marian Thacher, she's the director of the Outreach and Technical Assistant Network, OTAN, which provides support and training for technology integration, distance learning, and electronic collaboration to adult educators in California. Very important person to know. She developed and led OTAN's Technology Integration Mentor Academy for several years before becoming the project director. Marian has taught adult ESOL in California, Illinois, and is a frequent presenter at national and state conferences. Will you join me in giving a warm welcome to my friend and somebody that's extremely valuable in adult ed, Marian Thacher.
Thank you. You know, after listening to those stories of people who never thought they'd be standing where they were, I sort of have that same feeling as a teacher standing in a room with 135 principals. It's kind of like, uh-oh, how did I get here? But today we're going to talk about, or this afternoon, we're going to talk about 21st century skills. My job is to keep you awake after lunch, so I have a few strategies to do that. And ultimately, what we want to be asking ourselves is, what do our learners need to know in order to survive, and not only survive, but thrive, and make it in employment, in education, and in their communities? And so to know that, we have to understand what is the teacher's role, and to support the teacher, what is your role? So I'm just going to start with talking a little bit about reading, because just the act of reading has really changed in the last 25 and even in the last 10 or 5 years. So what we read, how we read, when we read, where we read, it's a little bit different, what we're looking at, and also listening. How many of you listen to audiobooks? Yeah, during your commute or at the gym or whatever. How many of you have a Kindle or an iPad and read books on it? Oh my gosh, there you go. Boy, every year this really changes, so you guys are going to be ahead of me now. So these are just some of the things that are happening with reading, the act of reading. For example, where do you read the newspaper now? How many of you still get the Dead Tree edition, as they say? Me too, I admit it. I'm attached to it. However, there's a lot of different ways to read it, and I do read the New York Times on my phone sometimes when I have time, when I haven't had time to look at the newspaper. There are lots of apps that we can have on our phones. There are screen readers that, that will read anything to you. So anything that you can't necessarily read yourself, you can have a screen reader read it to you. There's an app that you can take a photo of somebody and see all their social networking connections and have a link to them. So I could take a picture of Jerry Green, and I can go on his Facebook page and find out when his birthday is and how his kids are doing and all that kind of stuff just by taking a picture. Just not to make you paranoid, but just something to keep in mind. So digital textbooks, there's been a lot of talk about digital textbooks in California. This is a chart showing sales of digital textbooks and projecting out to that will be a 35% digital by 2015. And already all of our textbooks have some kind of digital component, right? They have a CD or a website or both. But we will be going in that direction of really everything being digital. I don't know if you've seen this website called Flexbooks. Have you seen this? No? Let me try to go here, because this will just give you a concrete example of what it might look like. So this is a grant-funded website. It's through STEM. So it's focused on math, science, and math, engineering, and what's the T? Technology. Oh, I should know that one. However, so they have textbooks on this site that are broken into chapters, and you can pick and choose. So, okay, I'm going to teach basic algebra. I'm going to go over here, whoops, go to it. I'm going to see what chapters are in here and decide, okay, I'm going to do expressions, equations, and functions. So I can just take this and drag this over to my book that I'm going to create for my students. I can go back and say, well, I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to do linear equations. So in other words, I can choose the chapters that I want. I can drag them over. Then I click a button. It turns into a PDF. I can save it. I can email it to my students. I can post it on my website. They can print it or not print it. They may not need to print it, so we can just bypass the whole paper thing, possibly. Now, right now, this is available and it's free. I wouldn't say this is the model that we're always going to have, because it's not going to always be free. And the publishers are, I'm sure, trying to figure out right now how it's going to not be free. But, you know, we have these grant-funded projects that are seed money to let us try to figure out how this is going to work. And I mean, when you think about that, is that exciting to be able to just pick and choose chapters of a textbook and make your own book, and add your own stuff to it if you want, and really customize it? So I'm excited that we're going in that direction. Bookstores, been to Borders lately? Well, but you know, Amazon, when they first started selling the Kindle, they said, well, we've sold more electronic books than hardbacks. Well, that wasn't too hard, in my estimation. Then it was more than paperbacks, and now it's more than all other books. They're selling more ebooks. So, and that happened really fast in the space of a few years. So we're going this direction pretty fast. Have you heard of ISTE, International Society for Technology and Education? Are you out there? Have you heard of it? A few, okay. Well, this is an international organization that looks at technology and education, and they've put out standards, technology education standards. So I'm starting with just showing you what their standards are for teachers. A lot of times I do this talk for teachers, and I go through these. What are the standards for teachers? So facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity. Well, that's a 21st century skill, but it's not just a 21st century skill. Weren't we doing this in the 20th century? So not everything is new. The context is new. How we're doing it and the tools that we have to work with are new. But a lot of the needs that we have are the same ones we've had the whole time. There's a lot of emphasis on this, however, with the whole entrepreneurial, you know, we need to have more startups and all that. So employers are really looking for that creativity and innovation. The next one is about designing digital age learning experiences, and that has to do with, you know, if you do a writing assignment, it's not necessarily in one of those little black and white notebooks, composition books. It might be on a blog or on a wiki or on a website somewhere. Model digital age work and learning. So teachers are modeling this for students. You know, if I need information, I don't go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, I go to Google. Okay, that's like a basic example, but that's the type of thing where it's important for us to be modeling this, and it's important for you to be modeling it for teachers and sort of setting the tone that this is what we're doing now. Digital citizenship and responsibility. With this whole digital age, there comes a whole set of dilemmas that we didn't have before that we need to look at, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then engaging in professional growth and leadership. Well, is that new? Teachers always were supposed to be engaging in professional growth and leadership. How we do that is different. We're doing a lot more online than we used to, but the basic need really isn't that different. So, okay, so that's what your teachers are supposed to be doing in the classroom. So here's what their 5 standards are for administrators as far as technology integration. The first one is be a visionary leader. Be a visionary leader. Piece of cake, right? Do you just wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to be a visionary leader today? I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas about things that you could be visionary about. The next one is creating a digital age learning culture. you know, this is just kind of the milieu that we're in right now, and we take advantage of it, and we use it, and we take it for granted, and we make sure that our students are feeling the same way. Some of them are way ahead of us, some of them are not as far as us, but we're all trying to go in the same direction here. Excellence in professional practice, that's not new. That's what I'm saying is that was a 20th century skill, we just carried it over. Systematic improvement, that's not new either, but we have a lot of technology tools. We have like mountains of data and a lot of ways to crunch those numbers that we didn't used to have. And digital citizenship for us as well. Okay, so starting with visionary leadership. A purposeful change that maximizes the use of digital age resources to meet learning goals. That's what we're talking about. Now, this is data from your technology plans. How many of you did a technology plan last year? And you're going to do one by January 31st this year, right? Next year. Okay, so in there is an optional survey of your students asking them whether, you know, some questions about technology. Do you have a computer at home? Do you have internet at home? Do you use it? Who uses it? What do you use it for? So this question was to ESL students, do you have internet access at home? Now, the green bars are 08, 09, or no, 09, 10, sorry. And the brown bars are 10, 11. So the interesting thing about this data is, here's the line from beginning literacy, not even beginning ESL, but beginning literacy ESL to advanced. So you can see that there's no level, there's no language or literacy level that has no internet access. Even beginning literacy had something like 28 or 29% of them have internet access at home. They might not be the person that's getting online, but it's there. And then up to 90, 80% for advanced. So that's a spread, but you can see, you know, the line basically goes straight up. Now the next year, last year, the same thing, but the slope is a lot less. So ESL beginning literacy, something 64% of them have internet access at home now. That's in 1 year. And basically the advanced level is the same, not too much change. What could account for that? What happened? Prices went down? Phones. Oh, I forgot to say the range. Okay, so the first year it was 52% difference between beginning and advanced. The second year was 19% different. Why? Phones, really, smartphones. And so that's made a huge difference in our students' access to technology. And I know your IT departments know that, because all those sites they used to block, it's like, why bother? They're just going there on their phone. So, and not just phones, other mobile devices. I see a few iPads out there. But for our students, it's mostly phones, right? So here's a map of broadband access in the United States. It's not as much as you would think it would be. There's a lot of areas, and a lot of us aren't necessarily in them because we're in urban areas, but there's a lot of rural areas that don't have broadband. But here's mobile wireless access for cell phones. So huge amount of access, pretty much anywhere you are except the top of the Rockies. And this chart is projecting that at some point in the near future, access to the internet via phone will surpass that via desktop. Number of users. So right now, 35% of US adults own a smartphone. And 25% of those say that that's where they do most of their internet browsing. Do you do that? Yes? Yes? A few yeses. You know, I mean, if you have a choice, if you're sitting at home, you might rather have a big monitor and a comfortable chair and a keyboard. But if you're running around doing things, you have a lot of access right on your phone. This is who owns a smartphone by education. So no high school diploma. Those are our students that we work with, 18%, up to college, plus almost 50%. This is interesting. This is in the Pew Internet and American Life Project report that African American and Hispanic, 44% own smartphones. White non-Hispanic, 30% own smartphones. So, you know, white people are way behind the curve on this one. And part of this has to do with, you know, economics. And at some point, you might choose to just pass by the whole desktop broadband thing and just have a phone, because you don't really need that anymore because you got it all on your phone. I don't want that. Okay, this is numbers, percent using a cell phone to access the internet. And the interesting thing about this, again, is the slope of the line. Not that 40% of people are doing that now, but it's going up, and it's heading towards 100, you know? I don't know if we're going to make 100, but it's definitely going up fast, faster than one might think. It's not totally there. Like these blue bars are desktop, using the desktop to browse, and the red bars, the red part is the phone or the tablet or an iPad or whatever. So it's only at about 5% right now of all total browsing, but you can see that it's growing. This is just an example of a cell phone project. This is much more ubiquitous in developing countries that don't have the whole infrastructure, broadband infrastructure that we have. This is a farming project in India, and it's sort of a network for submitting and solving farming problems, and it's via cell phone, not smartphone either, just texting. Even what they're called feature phones, the ones that don't have a browser and all that stuff, you still can text and question and get a text answer back. And so 8.5 million Indian farmers are taking part in this project. So that just gives you an idea of how this is, it's not just us, this is being used worldwide. So we have different models of teaching and learning now. We have C-learning, which is classroom learning. Like what we're doing right now, we're together, we're sharing a physical space. There's good things about this. I don't think this is going to go away, and I'm not one of those people that says everything's going to be online, because I believe that we're herd animals and we just like to be together. It's just like, you know, when the VCR was invented, everybody said no, nobody's going to go to the movies anymore. Oh no, we still go to the movies. Don't you go to the movies? We want to be together. We want to be in that dark room with that big screen. Online learning, or e-learning, this has made access much more convenient for a lot of people who couldn't physically come to school on a regular schedule. They can do a lot more online. And boy, I was at a graduation for University of Phoenix a couple of months ago for a friend of mine, and there were something like 3,500 people graduating in the morning and another 3,500 in the afternoon. I mean, it was huge. It was in Arco Arena. So that is definitely happening. This is definitely a direction that education is going, and adult education can't be left out of that or ignore that. And then we have M-learning, mobile learning. This is going to be different probably. We're still figuring this out. I don't think we have the answer to this, but this is going to be more small chunks of information, context specific. Like I saw a program at Katisal last year that if you it was a language learning startup company called Voxy, I believe. If you walk by a restaurant, even now, if you walk by a restaurant, you can pull up the menu, right, and see what they have and decide if you want to go in there. Well, this application would give you, if you walk by a restaurant, it would give you phrases. May I please order something to drink, or you know, whatever you need to say. Yes, table for two. English language for being in a restaurant. And same thing for you walk into a bank, it's going to give you banking language and vocabulary. So those are the kind of things that are going to probably work on a small screen, but with GPS, knows where you are all the time and can give you context-specific information. So it's going to look at moments of need rather than courses. And I'm not saying you can't take your whole course on your phone, because you can do that right now. You can be enrolled in a Moodle course and you can do everything on your phone. But if you're old and your eyes are kind of old, it's hard. So you want to do part of it on your desktop. I'm just going to show you a little bit of a video that we produced last spring, just visiting some of the adult ed classes that are using cell phones in the classroom now. I think these are all ESL examples.
Mobile learning to me is when you're able to learn anytime, anywhere. And so that's what I've been trying to provide for my students.
Mobile learning means that students have access to a cell phone or any device, which can be used for students to learn a second language or any subject. And it's something that is accessible 24/7. Students have them with them all the time.
90% of our students have cell phones, and 100% expressed interest in using activities through cell phones, even if they don't have a cell phone yet. I think it's important that we break the digital divide that exists for folks who may not be able to afford a computer with an internet connection at home, and to be able to provide them materials with resources that they already have.
And I just decided, you know, I'm going to keep it simple. I want to use the phone for texting, for taking pictures, and for calling. Because when I do a needs assessment, the number one thing students want, they want more listening and speaking.
So we don't have time to watch the whole thing, but this is on the O10 website if you'd like to see more, or show it to your staff. And it does go on to give some examples of types of instructional activities using student cell phones. So I'm with Ray Kurzweil. You have a powerful tool there in your pocket or your purse. Okay, moving on. Digital age learning culture, what does that mean? So let's just look at how all of this stuff is affecting education. Now this is probably not what you remember, right? Maybe a few of you, but this was probably our parents' school or our parents' parents. And this was probably not what your classroom looked like either, except for the chalk dust. You got to remember that chalk dust. There used to be a lot of that stuff around. This is more what we're looking at today, although maybe this was like surpassed some of what your classrooms look like. But what is this? Khan Academy. This is what education could look like in the future, which is a website with instructional videos and a management system and a way to communicate with the teacher. And basically, you can go online right now, and anything you want to learn, you can learn it. I need to find out how to change my tire on my bicycle. I just went on YouTube and looked for a video about how to change a tire. And pretty much everything is like that. It's quite amazing. So what does that mean for us? DIY is do-it-yourself education. And there's a lot of thinking going on right now about how to integrate that with our bricks and mortar and our structures and our funding streams and what we do. MOOCs, do you know what a MOOC is? Massively open online course, something like that. Some guys in Canada started doing this, some university professors in Canada. They said, well, you know, why should our course just be limited to our 15 students that we have here sitting in our classroom in our university? Let's just put this online and open it up to anybody that's interested. So you could have thousands of people, and they could be everywhere in the globe. They are not on the same time. So they're not going to always be communicating in real time. But you can follow Twitter feeds, you can search for a hashtag on blogs, and so there's like this massive amount of communication going on about this particular topic. And then there'd be like specific events, like maybe Wednesday at 3 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, we're going to have an online meeting where so-and-so, an authority on this topic, is going to talk about it. So it's an interesting experiment in education, but it just shows that they're looking at what's possible. It's possible for us to be open to the whole world right now. P2PU, have you heard of that? It's just have you taken a course on it, Tim? No? Just looked at it? It's, this is grant funded, another grant funded thing. It's looking at peer-to-peer In other words, anybody can teach a course, anybody can take it. So I could go on there and create a course. I want to teach a course about 21st century skills. I just go on there, I create my course, I put up my syllabus, I let my friends know or advertise it however I'm going to advertise it. It gives a platform for people to do that. And there's no funding mechanism, you know, nobody's making money off it right now yet. And it's just sort of out there. So see if we can just go there and take a look at it. So it's geared right now towards techie type of topics, PHP programming, web design, that kind of stuff that's like easy to do online. But then there's the philosophy of death. If you'd like to study that, you could sign up for the course. And there was one down here, web-made movies. Collaborative lesson planning. So there's a lot of educators in here thinking about things and talking about things too. And this is just like a really neat opportunity to explore a topic that you're interested in with other people that are interested in it. What? No, it's the Wild West. It's not structured at all right now. So yes, I mean, you might get something good and you might get something not so hot, but you'll know right away when you go in there and start looking at the syllabus and the type of comments on the comments page and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not like we figured all this out. We just have like the pioneers out there figuring it out right now. And so this is another MacArthur Foundation funded project, badges. The Open Badge Project, and they're just running a competition right now for people to compete to have their badges recognized and do some programming so that people can get their badges. But their idea is that there's a lot of learning that goes on informally, and how can we recognize that? You know, you have the Bill Gates type of people that are doing things in their garages that are, you know, where they're learning more than they were learning in high school. But there's no way to formally recognize that. So they're trying to come up with a system where you could earn a badge in something. It's not a formal course, it's not 3 units, it's not accredited, but there'll be some kind of, and they are trying, Laurel, to have those be, you know, monitored in some way so that the badge means something and it means something across the board. So if you have the web design badge, then there's a certain criteria that you know that person has met. So this might be something that we end up being involved in because this is the type of thing that we do, you know. We're not doing a 4-year degree, we're doing a certificate in a certain amount of skills, job skills or language skills or math skills or whatever it is, or getting ready for the GED. So it could be that adult schools and other schools are offering badges along with whatever else they're offering. Just a thought. This is the number of students enrolled in online college courses, pushing 6 million. That was in 2009, so I'm sure it's over 6 million now. And this is the growth of blended. And blended, I think, is our ticket to the future. Because I don't think our students aren't gonna just come and hop online and start being really motivated, you know, high-functioning online learners. They wouldn't be our students if they were able to do that or wanted to do that. So they're going to still need us, teachers, schools, support, counseling, all the other things that we offer. However, since everything is going in this direction, we need to be going, and they need to be going in this direction also. Because when you go to work, you're going to be taking, you know, your sexual harassment training might be online instead of face-to-face like it was 2 years ago. Or your just-in-time training for whatever your job is, a lot of it might be online. And the same thing, if you're going to post-secondary education or training, there's a lot of, you'll have at least a component of your course that's online. So this is the direction I think we need to be looking. Not 100% online, we're gonna have pieces, parts and pieces that are still in person, but how can we take advantage of the opportunities that we have now? So this you've probably seen before. This is level completion rates. This is again ESL because that's 40% of our program, so we have the most data from that program. And it's showing you the blue line is classroom instruction, The yellow line is distance learning only, and the red line is distance learning blended, which in this case means I'm taking a distance learning course and I'm taking a face-to-face course, so I have data from both. And you can see that blended is having higher outcomes at every level, and that distance learning is close to classroom learning, distance learning only, but and for some reason at ESL low intermediate it's equal, but other than that it's a little bit lower. However, here's the data from year before last, 9-10, and now you can see that distance and classroom are together, pretty much all together, and that blended is the only one that's above at every level. So that's what we're looking at. That's the direction I think we want to see ourselves going in. Okay, switching a little bit from online learning and blended learning to information literacy. There is, we had basic literacy. That's what we were trained in. Then we have financial literacy and health literacy and media literacy. And now we have information literacy. So I don't know what this means to you, but to me, it means that I'm having like a fire hose of information coming at me 24/7. If I log into my Twitter account, it's like information's just going by so fast I can hardly read it. If I log into my Facebook or my LinkedIn account, I see what other people are doing. I might click on a few links. I can't spend my whole life there, so then goodbye. I leave and I miss the other 99% of what's going on there. But information is coming to us all the time. So how do we manage that information? How do we use that information? How do we organize it in a way that we can ever find it again if we need to? These are skills that I think are new. We always had to manage information, but not like this, not the quantity that we have now. So we all, and I don't think we really talk to each other about this enough. We all have developed our personal strategies of managing information, like how do you manage your email inbox? Do you have folders? Do you have rules that send certain emails to certain folders? Do you have everything just in a big mishmash and you have to sort through it when you're trying to look for something, but you use the search? There's a lot of different strategies. But we need to be teaching this to our students, how to manage information. And so we have to also be talking about that with teachers. How do you manage information and what are some good strategies? And we need to be modeling that. And along with that goes time management. Time management has been an issue forever, but now it is so easy to just sit down at the computer, you click on one link leads to another link, to another, and that's what I mean by bunny trail. My staff will send me an email that says, it'll say in the subject line, bunny trail, meaning you don't have to read it right now, but this is really cool. So these are some questions that I ask teachers if they're doing in their classroom to help their students manage information, because this is a big issue, a big, big issue. If you visit some people's homes, and I'm not saying that I'm talking about any of you, but some people's information management system is a drawer in the kitchen, and it is like overflowing, stuffed with pieces of paper. And some of those pieces of paper are notices from what's happening at this kid's school next week. And then also in there is the birth certificate and the Social Security card and the immunization record and the letter from Social Security and stuff that organizing that stuff is sort of like a life-critical skill. So we need to be demonstrating and modeling and overtly discussing. So I say to them, when you go to search for something online, don't just go and do the search and click and show the result, but talk yourself through it as you're doing it. Okay, I'm looking for a picture of an eggplant. I'm going to type eggplant in here, but I'm not getting what I want, so I'm going to click on the image. You're just modeling the strategy that you're using to search. So we need to share those with each other. Here's another idea. We've been talking about this actually for a long time at the state level. Portfolios or ePortfolios, or can we've been talking about this in relation to teachers and programs. Should we have a way where, like sort of a unified professional development system where everything that you participate in through CASAS, CalPro, and OTAN and other things could be collected in one place and you can just go there and show what you've done, you know, what courses you've completed, what you've learned. And so we're also looking at this for students because, you know, job applications are online. You don't even see a person now when you go to Target that you just sit down at their workstation and fill in your application, and then they call you if they like what you filled in. So you got to have that digital piece down to even get past step one. So we're looking at ways, simple ways to help students put their information and their work samples and their CASA scores and their videos of their projects online. There's a lot of different ways to do that. I don't have time today to like take you through what's the best tools. Google Docs is a good one though, and that's the one that we're doing a project on this year. But there's a lot of other ways to do it. We started out looking at mahara.org, which is an ePortfolio software. And this is an example of a portfolio. It doesn't look like a resume that you'd get in the mail for a job application, but it has a lot of links in it. So I can go to all these links. I can see this person's story. I can see their different activities that they did. I can watch a video of them talking about their work as a nurse. So there's a lot of possibilities of integrating media and different things that we didn't have before. This is just an example of a student who had a business selling these little Jell-O desserts, which are amazing works of art. And this is like the perfect, you know, this is perfect for a website where you can go there and look at all her different designs and pick the one you want. So it was a nice example of a portfolio. We're doing more and more stuff on the cloud. Do you know, does that make sense to you? Or when people say in the cloud, do you sort of go, huh? Huh? Okay, I hear a few huhs out there. So it just means that whatever you're doing is not stored here in your computer, it's stored out there, somewhere else on somebody's server out there. But it really doesn't matter where it is because it's accessible to you at any time that you're online. And we're pretty much everywhere we go, we can be online, right? Especially on your phone. So bookmarks is a good example of how we do this. Do you save your bookmarks on your computer? No? Yes? So if you saved a bookmark at work and then you go home and you need it, how do you find it? You have to wait till you go back to work. That's a bummer. So if you used a site like Delicious, excuse me, that just means you're bookmarking it in the cloud. So it's accessible from anywhere. And it's also, rather than putting it in a folder, you associate it with tags or words that are associated with it. This has been extremely helpful to me because, you know, I have a lot of folders and a lot of bookmarks, and then I can't remember, did I put that in the literacy folder or the ESL folder? Well, this frees you from that folder metaphor. So you can put it in every folder at once that you want. So I encourage you to look at online bookmarking if you haven't, just as a strategy for information management. Excellence in professional practice. So this has to do with communication and collaboration. And one of the big ways of communicating that we have right now is Facebook, right? So should we use Facebook or shouldn't we use Facebook? Should we block it at our school or shouldn't we? Or is it already blocked and can we get it unblocked, or is there no way that that's going to happen? There's a lot of questions around this. But why should you even think about it and use it? Number one, all your students are there and your teachers and everybody's there in some form. You know, it might not be a professional form and you might not want to use your Facebook account professionally. Believe me, I've done everything you can do wrong in Facebook, so this is how I've learned all these lessons. And the first thing I did wrong was to join things and create things from my personal account. That wasn't good, because, well, I did learn not to post inappropriate things on my Facebook account, but I have no control over my friends. They post whatever, and that shows up to everybody who's your friend. So I realized, like, oh, I need a different account. So, but it's very accessible. People go there, and there's wide access. The cons are privacy issues, as I'm sure you've addressed. What type of page should you have? How do you promote your adult school? Do you need a personal page? All those kind of questions. And that you have to have separate professional accounts. I don't say you have to, but I recommend it. So what could you do with it? Well, let me ask you this. How many of you have a Facebook page for your adult school? That is awesome. That's probably a quarter to a third. And that's like 10 times more than it would have raised their hands last year if I asked this question last year. So what are people doing that have a Facebook page for their program? They're promoting their program. They're keeping in touch with their learners. They're posting photos of events. They're posting information about events. They're keeping in touch. You know, you probably heard, well, if you're in the new administrators orientation, you heard that the NRS next year is going to, not personal goal setting, but just everybody's going to be in a cohort, and we're going to have to follow those people. Everybody that wasn't employed, we have to follow them and see if they were of work age, see if they got a job. Well, how are we going to do that? We're not too good at doing that now. And I'm not saying that Facebook is the answer, but it does give you another tool to stay in touch with people after they leave. So there's 3 types of accounts: individual accounts, a fan page or a business page, and a group. And all of these have different functions. So you would use different ones of them for different goals that you have. But for all of them, you have to start with an individual page. So in order to make a business page, you have to have an individual page already. So you have to think about whose page is that going to be, or are you going to create a new individual account in order to create your business page? A group is more of communication with a specific group of people about a specific topic. And there's a lot of pre-thinking and pre-planning that goes into this before you ever do your first click, I found out. So here's just some examples from teachers. This is Steve Ewart from Fresno. Do we have Fresno here? There she is. A GED teacher. He posts lesson information, he posts quotes, and he uses his Facebook page as a way to stay in touch with his students. And so here's a student that's saying, "Can I come back?" Well, I think she graduated, so she was sort of kidding. She was like, "Can I come back?" But he spends time here, and he's really built this as a community building tool for his class. This guy who you also saw in the video, this is the one that had a student that said, "I have to start and go back to class. Can you accept me?" So then there was a whole conversation with the students that were still in the class about whether he could come back. But it's a nice way to keep in touch with people and bring them back in when they have the opportunity. Mato, also from Fresno. He teaches EMT, and he puts a lot of lesson content up here and answers students' questions and has a lot of dialogue going on with his students. So they're providing resources. They're also, celebrating when somebody graduates or somebody gets a job or somebody does something exciting. They can celebrate it here and have discussion. And so here are programs, some program pages. Torrance has been doing this for quite a while. Is Torrance here? Too far away. So here's their catalog that they put online. Downey also has been doing this for a while. They had a raffle. You had to go to the Facebook page and answer a question, and they put your name in for a raffle, and she won, what was it, tickets to Knott's Berry Farm, I think. Milpitas also posting information like when are we going to be closed, when's the next holiday, here's the next social activity that we're having. And Palo Alto Adult School, I just heard this morning at breakfast. So I was like, okay, I'm going to add a slide to my presentation because I thought this was a great example. They're going to run a student contest, How Adult Education Has Changed Your Life, and submit a photograph to go with your story. And then these stories with photographs are going to be displayed in the windows of an art store and a bookstore in Palo Alto that are, partners with the adult school. So there's prizes for people that win. And also they get a lot of publicity. And then they have another program where they have community partners and they promote the blood bank or something else, the movie theater for 1 quarter. They promote the blood bank and the blood bank promotes the adult school. So that's a nice partnership for exchanging information and PR about your programs. So this is what their Facebook page looked like this morning at breakfast. It's probably different by now. But some of their students also have their experiences posted on KQED's ESL blog. So it's a way of sharing exciting things that are happening in your program. And then these are just some examples. These have nothing to do with adult school, but the United Nations High Command for Refugees, they do a really good job with their Facebook page. And this was one thing they did. They posted a photo and said, can you guess where this is and what they're doing? We'll tell you the answer tomorrow. So if you went to their Facebook page, you might go back tomorrow to see what the answer was, or especially if you posted an answer. So I think this was a contest to build a bicycle out of wood, but it's an intriguing photograph. And they did some other things. They had this group, Somali sister duo Sweet Rush wrote a song about refugees for them. So they posted on their Facebook page, and they have a link. You can listen to the song. So I don't know if anybody's composing songs for your adult school, but it's nice to have media in there, not just text. And then they also had, today is UN Day, and so they posted this clip of Eleanor Roosevelt on What's My Line. Oh my gosh, do any of you guys remember What's My Line? Me too, I admit it. That was a great show. So I would click on this. I would watch Eleanor Roosevelt, and I would go back to the UNHCR page and see what they're doing, because it's interesting, it's intriguing. It takes time, it takes resources. It doesn't just happen. It has to be somebody's job and responsibility to do this and to come up with these ideas and to, bring them to fruition. But it could be rewarding. You pretty much have to post on a regular basis. If you don't post anything for a few weeks, then that's it. People stop coming. And contests help, polls, surveys, quizzes, things that people can participate in. And then groups is another possibility. This is more that you would use for a project or a classroom. So we have one for our TMAC, Technology Integration Mentor Academy project, and it's been a very nice way. This project is in its 8th year this year. So we have 7 years worth of graduates from this project, and it's been a really nice way to keep in touch with all those people who have been trained, come through us and are the technology mentors for their programs. And so Layla was in it like a number of years ago. She's from Culver City, but she thought to go there and ask the question. She had a question about the DREAM Act and whether attendance at adult school counts for going to school for 3 years so that you can qualify for the DREAM Act. And people answered her. Well, I sort of cheated, because then she sent me the link that was the answer, so I posted it for her. But it's just an example of keeping in touch with people. That's another one. Okay, LinkedIn. I just had a conversation with somebody about this. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Wow. And you're not my friends? How many of you never heard of it? Okay. Well, it's like Facebook, but it's a professional networking tool. So this is important for us. It's important for probably our teachers, many of whom were our teachers, and now they're looking for jobs. It's just a way of being in contact with other people in your profession or related professions. So you might be connected with your family and your friends and your banker and your doctor or whatever, but it would mainly probably be people that you've worked with. And I've used this for hiring. Like, I've posted a notice on here, not particularly for education, but I could have, but I did it I was looking for programmers, which are actually very hard to find. They're not having a recession right now. They're all employed. So you have to lure them away from wherever they are. And this was a very, very helpful site for me, and I've stayed on it because I'm learning things they have discussion groups on there. So I'm learning, what other people are looking for in the way of programming, and I'm connected with also a lot of adult education people. So we need to have those professional networks. We have ACSA. You have a lot of tools for this. So maybe this is just one more tool for you and you don't need it. But if you don't have something like this, you can't just build it when you lose your job. You have to build it over time. You're not going to come up with 200 contacts in a week when you all of a sudden realize that you need them. So this is just something for us to be aware of, and for our students, especially ones that are, were professionals in their country and maybe looking for something, where they'd be willing to move or where they have a resume to post online. This is an important tool, I think, for people to know about. I just was working with, I already forgot his name, Dennis, from Stockton who's working on the CCAE Spring Northern Conference, and he was like, oh yeah, we have to have a workshop on LinkedIn. I think this whole professional networking thing is on people's minds right now. And then just a whole topic about professional development. We have, this is the National Educational Technology Plan, so this came out of the Federal Department of Education under Obama, and it's actually a fantastic document, very forward-looking, really looking at how is technology going to change education, and I've quoted it a lot. And one of the topics that it talks about is professional development and what kind of a teaching force do we need to develop. It talks about online instruction, it talks about social networking, it talks about technology-based professional development, all things that we're doing, right? We're doing them, but it's nice to have that be reinforced, like at the federal policy level, like, yeah, this is where we want you guys to go. As I shared the other day, so we have a professional development calendar for adult education in California, and it's caadultedtraining.org. And it used to be just a calendar, like, you know, in a calendar format, and you click on the day and you can see what's going on that day. But it became way too many events to have in that format. So now it's a list, and there's all different kinds of professional development. We just had professional development, which basically meant workshops, you know, or maybe a series of 2 workshops or 3 workshops, but that was it. Now we have an online category, a blended category, a face-to-face category, and we have 6 different types of online events. So things have really changed in the last few years. This is what it looks like. And at the top are self-directed courses. So these are ones you just go on and go through it on your own. A lot of these are from CASAS, so you can get your CASAS training, the certification training that you have to get every year. You can do this online. Or you can go to an event, or you can go to a webinar that's facilitated by somebody. CalPro has this is just one example of their multi-level ESL virtual workroom. And if you haven't been to this, if you're ESL teachers, if you have multi-level classes, which almost everyone does, if you haven't been to this, go here. This is just a fantastic resource, so much information, and really a lively community. And I don't have the URL here, sorry, but if you just go to calpro-online.org, you'll find it. Okay, moving on. Systematic improvement. Uh-oh, I have 5 minutes? Okay, this is how I feel. I have all this stuff to tell you. And this is probably how you feel a lot of times too. We have a lot of data that we need to manage, and we need to put it into useful form and share it and discuss it and get input about it and then make database decisions. And we have a lot of different ways of doing that than we did in the past. And so this is just one course that was on the P2P University, an introduction to data wrangling, how to get, use, and share data. I didn't really look through it and make sure it was a really good course. I just thought it was interesting that it was there, meaning a lot of people are thinking about this topic and trying to figure out what are the best ways to do these things. Google Forms, if you haven't used it, have any of you used Google Forms? A really easy, free, quick way to gather data online. You have to have a Gmail account, and that's about it. Then you just go to Google Docs, create a new form. So you could use this. LA started using this a few years ago to, when the professional development centers went away, they did a Google form to register their teachers for workshops. It works great. All the data goes into a spreadsheet, and you have it. The evaluation for this conference is on SurveyMonkey, which is a great tool, but it's not free, and Google Forms is, so that's just a little plus for it. Of course, you know, recruiting and retaining. We're not doing a whole lot of recruitment now, but I was happy to hear that some people are recruiting for some positions, and we're able to have that criteria of technology proficiency as one of the criteria that we look for when we're hiring now, and I think it's going to be important. And creating a culture in which it's, of course, assumed that that's important rather than that's just like a little extra on the side. Creating an infrastructure, so you're responsible for making sure there's an infrastructure at your school, whether it's wireless or wired or both, whether there's a firewall, whether it's secure, you know, all this. There's a lot of questions that go along with that. So you need the right people. And we've made a lot of progress in this area, I think, in the last few years. We've gone from, and when I won't say we still don't, I mean, I'm sure there's some of you that still feel like this with your IT department, like they're not on the same page with you because they're about security and you're about instruction and openness. So there's still that tension there, and there's, you know, pluses on both sides. But I feel like we're moving, I hope we're moving in the direction of a little bit more openness, especially for adults that shouldn't be locked down in the same way that elementary schools and high school campuses are, and having access to the tools that we need online. And the last one, digital citizenship. You know, it's sort of like, well, what does that mean? But there are issues that we haven't had to deal with before. One of them is privacy. You know, you've heard all the stories about people getting fired for different things that they said or did or posted online. So that's important for us to know and for other people to know. And also, when you hire somebody, do you Google them? Not gonna tell? Okay. But 75% of people do. And they learn things that affect their decision, whether it's positive or negative. So it's important for, it's important for our students and us, and our teachers and us, to have a positive online presence. And this is one of the workshops that we do now that we didn't do a few years ago, is how do you create a positive online presence? Because people are gonna look for you online. And you don't even know who they are, or you may never hear from them. But on LinkedIn, you can see how many people looked at your profile in the last 30 days. So you know people are looking. You don't know who they are. So you want them to see positive things. So here's just some examples of things that you could do to create that positive presence. And at the same time, you want to remove any negative presence. And there's like a kind of a science to doing this. So you should Google your name, and not just your name. You should Google your email address. You should even Google your phone number and just see what comes up. And Google under images for your name, not just under text and websites, because weird things come up when you search for images of you, I'm telling you. So, and then if you want to know what's posted about you from here on out, you can create an alert. This is also a Google free service. I think it's just google.com/alerts. And you can just tell it you want to have an alert. That means you get an email every time their web crawlers find something, there's a mention of Marian Thacher anywhere on the internet, I'll get an email that tells me that. If there's a mention of adult education and budget cuts in California anywhere on the internet, I'll get an email about that. And that's how we did that budget cuts webpage that we did for the last few years, which I hope you've seen. But then if you find stuff that you don't like, you have to submit a form and ask them to please remove that. And it doesn't just happen overnight. So it's just something to keep in mind. Copyright is another big issue. Copyright laws have changed. Copyright issues have changed because everything's so accessible. Creative Commons licensing is pretty much what people use now to protect their materials and also to share them. So if you haven't looked at this, please look at it. And this is my very last slide. How do you like that? I'm right on time. The other thing is security. There's a lot to security, and this is another thing we don't talk with each other about all the time, and we don't talk with our students about, but we need to. Like, just how do you create a password? What's a secure password? That's a lesson. And actually, we had somebody in TMAC whose project was developing lesson plans on internet security. So this is a topic I think we need to integrate somewhere into our curriculum. Not opening attachments, not following emails, that tell you, you won $500,000 and all you have to do is send them the number of your bank account. Don't do it. So I'll just leave you with this. Things are changing, and they're going to keep changing, and we're just going to keep running as fast as we can to keep up with it. Thank you.